Good morning and welcome to Free Advice Friday. My name is Carrie Ray Barnum for New Shelves Books, and we are here to talk publishing, marketing, all the things included in being an author in the business of running an author business, whether you're traditionally published or indie, hybrid, anything in between. We cover pretty much all of it. We do take questions live if you join us at newshelves.com/FAF. You are also welcome to email in questions to info, at newshelves.com. We'll answer those every Friday, so we kind of save them up. And then you can watch the replays on YouTube. So we are happy to do that. Today we have a couple of questions that were emailed in, and we are going to get started with those. So the first question here was from Libby, and the question is, my mother has recently published a teen fantasy ebook on Amazon and would like advice on the best or least expensive ways to market it. I have a feeling this is a tough market to crack, but any ideas would be appreciated and welcomed. So absolutely, Libby. The thing with young adult books that I will say is that young adult books typically, if you look at the sales figures for anything for children, young adult, anywhere in that age range, most of the time, most of the books sold are in print. And so I would say that anyone who is trying to market specifically to a young adult market, a children's market, I would consider, if you've already got the ebook, also turning that into a paperback or a hardcover. Doesn't even have to be hardcover, but paperback at least. And so if you've already got the contents, really, it's just putting a wraparound cover on it and putting it up on KDP. And I'd really, really suggest that, because for a YA market, most of them are still buying print books. They're also finding a lot of their books in places like the library or at school when they're actually browsing books. So I would consider that first. But as far as the question of how to market an ebook, I think anytime that we're marketing to juvenile audiences, anything under 18, it's important to realize that there are multiple markets. So for example, for this market, for young adults, we have the young adults themselves. They are on things like social media and TikTok. They are on Instagram. And many of them actually do have access to Amazon accounts. So they may be kind of purchasing some things on their own. So we have to think about where they're finding their recommendations. Are they on Goodreads? How are they finding what's the next book to read? And we want to market there. And we want to keep in mind that the marketing there should speak directly to the reader. It should be on their level. And I don't mean in a sense of we can't use big words, but the sense that if we are going to market to a teen audience, we have to make sure that everything we do, from the graphics we use to the language we use, is something that resonates with them. And I specify that because then the other markets that we have is parents, and parents will often hang out on different social media than their kids, number one. For example, the average parent right now of teenagers is probably hanging out on Facebook, maybe Instagram. I'm not saying some of them aren't on TikTok, but most of what they do is going to be on Facebook, whereas kids are more likely to be on TikTok, YouTube, and Snapchat. So it's different. And we have to kind of recognize that. We have to recognize that when we're marketing to the parent, we're going to use different language. So for example, I'm currently working with an author who writes these epic fantasy books. It's based on Lost Realms of Dungeons and Dragons. It's super cool, and it's definitely meant for young adult readers. And also it's finding quite the audience with male readers between the ages of 30 and 50, which makes sense because those were the teens of yesteryear who were playing Dungeons and Dragons. So that market, though, it's been so interesting because we have to market to the actual reader. And that is when we're focusing on the aspects of role play and game. But when we are marketing those books to parents, we are changing our marketing. We're changing what we're saying. And it's shifting from, this is a super cool book and you're going to love reading it, to shifting to, do you want to get your kids off video games this summer? Find them a book that's even better than the game. And so that's the shift of where we're going directly to the reader. And then we're solving a problem for the parents is getting your kids off video games. Or we're talking about, do you have a reluctant reader? This book might be the cure for that, for that reluctant reader to get their reading in this summer. So we're shifting how we're talking about it. And that's with parents. Now, when we're marketing this to teachers, we change what we say again. We even change where we might hang out. Teachers are very often on places like Teachers Pay Teachers and Pinterest, as well as social media. So we might even change where we market and how we market. So I hope by now you're getting the point that there are different ways to market depending on the audience that you're trying to reach. But it's important not only that you find the right market for the right audience, but that you find the right language. What is going to entice each group so you know how to speak to them in a way that gets them excited about your book. So I think that's really, really important. Now, as far as cheap ways to market an ebook specifically, social media is free. However, it takes time. So that's one of the things I often say is that when you're marketing a book, you either have to have time, you have to money, or you have to have both. And in this case, for social media, it's virtually free. I mean, it really helps if you have something like Canva or things, but you can even use the free version, but it takes time, and it takes quite a bit of time, especially if you're going somewhere like TikTok. So I do think that that's a free option. It is where you can find readers. You can do it just by posting and building natural algorithms. You can put a little bit of money into something like Facebook ads. And I've talked about how you really can run Facebook ads for as little as $2 a day. I'm doing it for multiple clients right now. We are running ads that are just $2 a day that are actually finding their audience. They are getting new readers and they are working. So that is a very low expense way to run ads. Something you may also consider is if you have an ebook, you might consider doing a discount or free promotion. We've talked about those quite a bit. So you would put your book as, 99 cents, or you'd put your book as free on Amazon. And then you would put your book into different discount newsletters. So for example, you might put it on Bargain Booksy or Fussy Librarian or Robbins Reads, and you pay though to get that privilege. So those, especially for young adult categories, because their readership tends to be smaller, even in those big places that have been cultivating their audience and their mailing list for a really long time, it tends to be smaller. So the young adult list very often will cost anywhere between $20 and $40 to list your book there. So again, depending on how much budget you have available, those are two options that I would consider: social media, whether just natural algorithm because you've got the time, or some paid ads if you're, very low on budget, but you can afford, let's say, $50, $60 a month. I would consider that. And then as far as your ebook, doing a free promotion, you can reach a lot of people that way. Now, when you're giving away for free, if you have one single ebook, you are building awareness. You're hoping to get more reviews, but you're not necessarily getting that read through. So you're not making a profit or earning back that investment on your first book in series, which is what we do a lot of times. So it comes down to kind of deciding what your goal is with your marketing and what you're trying to get the end result to be. And those are some of the things that you might consider. Um, and then I will say with an ebook, if the ebook's only on Amazon, you can't really market it to libraries because it's not available to them. But if your book is wide and it's in like draft to digital, so it's in overdrive, then you could market that ebook to libraries as well. And pitching to libraries is free. I have a video on YouTube that talks about how to pitch a book to libraries and what they're looking for. So that's an option as well. And those are the things I would start with. But again, I would seriously consider, if it's possible, trying to get a print cover for that book and getting it in print. It will open up a lot more avenues for you for this audience specifically. It's, of course, of course. At which point does an author have enough organic marketing to make ads on places like Facebook and Amazon worthwhile? Can an author jump straight to ads? So you can jump straight to ads. My rule of thumb is that Facebook ads, you can kind of start earlier, but your conversions will be better for Facebook if it's on Kindle Unlimited, if the book's on Kindle Unlimited, and or you have reviews. Reviews is one of those things, it helps conversion. So Amazon ads, for example, because those can be pricey, I do not run Amazon ads typically until a book has 15 reviews. There have been a lot of studies, there's a lot of data that 15 seems to be the number when people start to trust and like count those reviews. So until a book has at least 15 reviews, I don't typically run any Amazon ads because the conversion's not there, so it's not worth the investment. I really stick to that. I have some people who are like, oh, well, my book's different, or, it's only got 5, but let's try it anyway. And what we see time and time again is that the conversion's not there. Then you start to make decisions in your ads because the conversion's not there. You start to doubt your actual product. You start wondering, is it my cover? Is it my description? Is it my price? And so you're kind of adjusting a bunch of things that may not even be the problem. It's just that there's not enough social proof. There's not enough ads. And so that is why I'm pretty strict on the 15 reviews for an ad. I think it's very, very important. So I think that's one of the things that I would say for, if you're talking about reach, I think that's what it is. And as far as Facebook ads, again, having reviews always helps for sure. Now you can kind of get people over if it's Kindle Unlimited, you can entice them with read for free. But for nonfiction books, I would be looking more at the Amazon ads, and for Facebook or social media ads for a nonfiction book. How does your book solve a problem? Because most nonfiction books do. Do you have a cookbook? What's my problem? Well, I don't know what to make for dinner and I only have a half hour. Okay, then you know that your targeting and your marketing is going to be short on time and need dinner on the table fast. I've got 30 recipes for you that you can make in 30 minutes. And you can see how you're solving a problem. And that is why sometimes social media ads can work really well, because you're getting people who do just have problems, life problems, and you're able to use that ad creative. Whereas on Amazon, where, we've got 150 characters, but on Amazon, someone has to be already on Amazon looking to buy something to see your ad. So I'm not necessarily, if I need to make dinner right now or I'm short on time, I'm not necessarily browsing Amazon looking for a book. Now, if I identify it as a problem and decide to do something about it, sure. But when I'm browsing on Facebook because I'm avoiding life because I don't want to make dinner and I do need it done in, 30 minutes, then if I see that, I might be like, oh, let me check it out. Let me see what I have on hand. So that may be an option for you. And just think about, again, who's your audience and your marketing there. Let's see. Can you suggest someone to help me with the subtitle for a new nonfiction book? I've been working on the book for a long time and I'm really struggling with the subtitle. Mike, that's something we do here at New Shelves. Part of what we do is we look at the keywords that are trending in your category and that are being searched often. And then we kind of work those keywords into a subtitle that hopefully is both descriptive and catchy. So with a subtitle, especially for a nonfiction book, what we're really trying to establish is we are trying to sneak some keywords in there because your title and your subtitle are your biggest hitting keywords. They count for the most in your metadata. So they really do matter. But we don't want to just stuff your subtitle with keywords. It also has to make sense. And most of the time, your subtitle is solving the problem. The one that I just talked about. When you have, what's the problem? How does this solve it? Or what does it give you? So your subtitle in a nonfiction book is really an opportunity to tell us what we're going to learn or why we need your book. So that is kind of the things I'd be looking at if you're creating your own subtitle. And if you do need more help, you can always reach out to us here at New Shelves. I am self-publishing a second edition of a book that was traditionally published in 2007. Will KDP link the first edition and the second edition together on the same book page, or will they be listed separately? And will they feature the second edition first? It will have a new cover. Um, maybe. Yes, probably, maybe. So, of course, Amazon, it's their own playground and they do what they want to, but they do have some rules that if you follow, it's more likely that they will link your first and second edition. The first thing I would say is that if your book was traditionally published, make sure that you have a reversion of rights letter or you have the contract that states when the rights run out, showing that you now have the rights to publish this title. You will, in most cases, need that, especially if the book's already been traditionally published. So make sure you have that on hand. It will make your process faster. It will mean you have less tears down the road, I promise. The other thing to consider is that if you'd like your book to link up, having a new cover is fine, but if you want it to link, your title and your author name must be exactly the same. And I do mean exactly. It cannot be, um, um, it could not say, for example, the way to publish as your title. And then your new book says the best way to publish. They will not link that because the title's not exactly the same. If your author name before was Kay Barnum and now you're putting your full name, Carrie Barnum, they will not do that. So you have to make sure that your title and your author name are exactly the same as the first edition if you want those two listings to link up. The other thing is that subtitle. Subtitle, sometimes they'll let you change, sometimes they don't. It's a little hit or miss. It seems to depend on who you get at Amazon. So just keep that in mind that if you really want it to sync up, consider not changing your subtitle. Just know that if you do change it, it's a risk. They may decide that the book's not exactly the same, and therefore they do not decide to link it up. The other things you need to know when listing your book is yes, list the book. When you initially list the book and it goes live, it probably will not automatically link. Now, once the book is published, you do have to wait, I think it's 7 days for them to see if like the algorithms and the metadata just kind of sync. And sometimes they do link up that way. But chances are with two different publishers that it won't automatically link up. And if that's the case, after 7 days, if it hasn't linked up, what you would do is you would then contact Author Central. Go through Author Central, not KDP, go through Author Central and request that they link your first and second edition. You just go to the contact button, you follow the directions there, make sure that you say, I would like to link the first edition of my book, ISBN, whatever it is, to the second edition of my book, ISBN, whatever it is, and you give them the details needed. Now, if you were self-publishing a second edition and both were through the same KDP account, they would be more likely to link up, or I would be saying that when you want them to link, you would go through KDP. However, if you are an author who is self-publishing a second edition through KDP and the first edition was through a different entity, a different publisher, that's when I would go through Author Central. It's just treated differently, honestly, and I've had much more luck getting things linked up through Author Central than I have through KDP for that instance. So those are the things that you really need to consider. And of course, if you need help or you need some consulting along the way, let us know. Let's see. Mike is asking about the teachers group I mentioned, and it's called Teachers Pay Teachers. It is a website, and essentially it is meant for teachers who are writing out lesson plans or doing crafts or doing different things that teachers use. They can list it. It's kind of like Etsy, I guess, except for it's for teachers. It's all meant to be something that is for teachers by teachers. So teachers are paying each other for the use of their lesson plans or their crafts or whatever it may be. And so that's a great resource for people who are marketing directly to teachers or who might have teacher assets or be a teacher themselves. Do you have an update on the status of Facebook Meta ads? Matthew J. Holmes mentioned stopping all of his ads due to the huge decline in effectiveness, something I noticed in Stop Facebook Ads April 4th. Bloomberg ran an article entitled Meta's Ads Woes May Push Marketers to Move Their Messages Elsewhere. If I missed your coverage of this earlier, I'll watch that. But my main question is, how will we know when Facebook Meta ads have addressed their issues so we can determine when to start advertising there again? This question actually just came up in a conversation with a author that I've been running ads with since I think 2018. We've been doing Facebook and Amazon ads. And this came up in conversation with her this week. And here, look, I know you can see the wheels turning in my head for how I'm going to word this and be nice. Here is the thing. Some people in marketing have been really touting using Facebook ads and spending tons and tons of money in using Amazon Advantage. Amazon Advantage, of course, is where the algorithm in the AI is what shapes your ads. It shapes your audience. It gives you suggestions on what creative to run and how to run things. And that, in my opinion, is what's having an issue. It's not all Amazon or Facebook ads. It's not all Meta ads. What it is that the algorithms in the system are not working as well as they had been. And for people who were really relying heavily and putting tons, I mean, thousands of dollars into letting the algorithms and bots determine their ads, how they ran, the marketing copy, the audience, those ads are suffering. And that is why I have said, even when certain articles or information was coming out about, why you should use that exclusively, even if it meant putting money in the beginning, I have kind of stood and said, I think that when starting Facebook ads, unless you have a lot of followers, you have a lot of metadata, you have a lot of information that you're already feeding the system, that I think it's really important that initially you target your ads, meaning you choose your audience, you target different things that relate to your book. And then once that has built up, once you've trained the algorithms who your audience is, and then you're active on those social media platforms with that audience, that's when we trust the computer to target. And I will say that I am in a lot of ad accounts, thousands of dollars a week in the ads that I take part in or run through different accounts. And I will say that the ads that exclusively just gave everything over to Advantage into the system and just said, I will feed you money, lots of money, but not necessarily know or target my audience, those ads are suffering. The ads that have been targeted to the right audience, or the ads that started out that way and really targeted the right audience, and the author has developed a relationship and started responding, reacting, posting to that audience, and they're engaging that audience still, and they're running ads, and we're still kind of, training the algorithms and targeting the right people. Those ads are still very successful. I still have clients who are making a lot of money. I was looking at numbers this week, and I still have many clients who are very successful with Facebook ads. So I don't think that Facebook ads are no longer viable. I think that the algorithms, as they will, the bots, the AI, the system is not running as well as it could be. And hopefully they do fix that, because I think it's a great tool. But I think it's to the issue of any type of AI or bot or algorithm, is that it's a fantastic tool, but it can't replace human intuition. It cannot replace knowing what you're doing and how to market and target. And that's my opinion. Everyone has one and everyone's entitled to one, but that is my experience and that is my opinion, that ads are still working for a lot of my clients and for me. Actually, the client I spoke to this week, it was kind of funny because she said that she was in a group of authors on a call where a lot of authors were talking about how terrible their ads were doing and how frustrated they were. And she told me, I just kept my mouth shut because I didn't want to be that person saying my ads were doing fine. So I think, I think that's just one of the things is use the tools, but don't rely on them too often. Like, yes, I absolutely love to use things like electricity in my house, but that doesn't mean that if the electricity goes out, I don't know where matches or candles are. I know how to light a fire. I have flashlights. I think it's just being prepared, and I think there will be bumps along the road no matter what system you use. We've seen things where Kindle Unlimited used to be amazing, and then there were problems with it. We've seen where Amazon ads, there used to be so much less competition in Amazon ads. So it was easier, honestly, to be successful because you could spend less because there was less competition out there. And then as Amazon started opening up ads to KDP authors, and then they opened it up to all authors through Author Central, the marketplace got more crowded. It's not that ads became less effective, it's that it got more competitive. And we've seen time and time again, Amazon algorithms where certain things were working and now they're not, or they're not allowed, and we have to figure out what it is. And I think that is probably what's going on with Facebook and Meta. So that's my 2 cents, and I'll stick to it for now. If anything changes, I'll let you know. Let me see. I know we had more questions here. I had an email question that I wanted to get to. All right. I have a question. I have had my books on draft to digital and haven't made a penny, so I'm considering returning to KDP. What is the process if I do this? So I just want to specify a couple of things, I guess. You can list your book on KDP for Amazon and draft to digital for, iBooks, Kobo, Barnes and Noble, Overdrive. So you can do both. If you are saying that you are considering going back to Kindle Unlimited, which is exclusive, that's different. If that's the case and you want to go back into the Kindle Unlimited system, the way that you would do that, whether you're using draft to digital, Ingram Spark, going direct to Kobo or Barnes and Noble to list your book, what you would do is you would go to those platforms and you would delist your book. On Ingram Spark, you cannot do this on your own. You actually have to contact support and let them know that you would like that taken down in distribution to cease. Now, know that the delisting process of them saying, okay, your book was delisted is quick. On draft to digital, I could do it in 5 minutes and it would start to come down. The thing that you have to keep in mind is that when a book comes down off of these platforms, it can take days, weeks, sometimes even months. So just know that you do have to wait a little bit of time between delisting, check and see if your listings truly came down. And then once that is down, you're not seeing your book on Barnes and Noble or different places like that for sale. That is when you would be able to enroll in Kindle Unlimited, which is again exclusive rights for Amazon to have and sell your ebook. So you would just delist, wait and check, and then enroll in Kindle Unlimited. And that Kindle Unlimited period is exclusive for 90 days. It does auto renew unless you click the button to not auto renew. So that is an easy process. Just make sure that you give it time. It's not something that, you can't really delist and enroll in Kindle Unlimited at the same time. Because what can happen is if Kindle Unlimited requires exclusivity, they have a bunch of tools and bots and things that are looking for your books on other platforms. And if they find your book on another platform once you enrolled in Kindle Unlimited, then they give you a warning. But if your book isn't taken down, then they actually will take you out of the Kindle Unlimited program. They can even stop your ebook from selling at all on Amazon. So we don't want to do that. Just give it time and patience there. All right. Victoria had a question about a audiobook info sheet. So Victoria is looking for a narrator and for information on creating a audiobook for her upcoming release, The Songbird of Venice, which looks super exciting, by the way. And so Victoria's question was kind of, what information do we send or need when we're reaching out to audiobook producers? So I wanted to talk about that a minute. If you are creating your audiobook on ACX, whether you are doing exclusive through them or you are doing a royalty share, anything, if you are using the Audiobook Creation Exchange, ACX, to create your audiobook, they have their own forms where like they require that you put in different information. So you just follow the form, and it may ask, do you want a male narrator, a female narrator? It may ask, your description of the book and how long it is and all that kind of stuff. So they have a form that they need. If you are going directly to different narrators, or if you're reaching out to audiobook production companies, which is a little bit different, then many times they will have a form for you to fill out on your own, but it's helpful to have some things available. So the things that Victoria included are, of course, her name and contact information, and then audio type, finished work, ready for ACX, find a way by Voices, other sites. The good news is that your audio file typically can be put up on any audio site. It's just that each chapter is broken out by itself. So most files are delivered in a way that I could use them for ACX, Findaway, or anything else, Author Republic. So that's good to know, is that there's not a specific file different to each platform. The other information that Victoria has included is the genre, the approximate length, and the vocal needs. And I think this is so smart, providing the genre, because different authors work, different narrators work in different genres, and the length. Because in order for anyone to give you a quote, they will need the length of the book. Keeping in mind that for audiobook narration, you are typically billed in what's called a per finished hour, meaning that you are billed, if your book is 10 hours, then you are billed for 10 finished hours. They don't necessarily say, I'm going to start a clock and all the time I put into it is what you pay for. It's just a per finished hour rate. And so it's higher. A per finished hour rate typically is going to range between 150, usually up to 350, although it can certainly go up 500, 1,000, depending on the notoriety of the audiobook narrator and different things like that. So having the length in words is important, because they do kind of have a formula of what they use for how many words typically fit into a per finished or a finished hour. So that's how they'll give you a quote most of the time. And so smart to include that there. And I love that you did include vocal needs. So for example, Victoria listed that she wanted someone who's already voiced several books. She didn't want someone who is, a novice, which is fair enough. Also stating you would like a female voice, and this female voice needs to have different accents. So listing those out is very helpful, because whether you're going directly to a narrator who knows their strengths and can they do certain accents well or not, or you're going to an audiobook production company, they need to know what you need, because it helps them find the right actor to fit your book and to really bring it to life. So those things are all really smart to include. The other things listed was the structure, and that's fine. Most audiobook production companies or narrators won't necessarily need to know the entire table of contents, not right away anyway. If you do agree to work on the project, they will need a PDF of your book. They will ask for a lot of different information, but for pricing purposes, or, just reaching out to see if it might be a good fit, you don't typically need all of that, but it doesn't hurt to have it, but not required. Characters and descriptions. And I have to say, do this before you look for a audiobook narrator. Do this. Very smart to have a list of all of your characters. I'm going to say that again. Have a list of all of your characters, not your main character, not just two characters, all of your characters. You ever see in the back of movies, not the back of movies, at the end of movies where it's like Taxi Man 2, Taxi Man 3. Yep, we want it kind of like that. If they have a speaking part in any way, we want your character listed. And that character listed should be by name and then their kind of qualities. So, for example, Victoria's done such a beautiful job. I'm just gonna use hers. Um, she lists the main protagonist, Grazia, 18, orphan, famous for pure voice and perfect pitch. So she's kind of told us that age range that we need and who they are. And then I would add even more than that, I would add the if there are any specific attitude or if they have any speaking habits or an accent. So I would say Grazia, 18, known for perfect pitch, has a light, airy voice and needs an Italian accent. That is kind of how I would do it for each character and even those minor characters, because you may think, oh, my book is so easy. I just have this American female who's got kind of a nondescript accent, no problem. But then your side characters may be French and Italian and German and Russian and Scottish. And then suddenly that person has to be able to do those accents well. And we've talked not that long ago about how we don't need heavy accents. Really, the lightest touch can be required, but sometimes narrators are more comfortable with that or they're better at it than others. So listing those things out, I think, is very important. But having this list, because if you don't have it when you start to work with a narrator, typically they're going to ask for it. So having this list is very helpful. The other thing that I would say to include, because it will come up, is having a list of, look, my mind's going blank, a list of how you pronounce things, names, and having that list. Now, this is not common words. Like if we have the word meeting, we don't need to know how to pronounce it, but names, places, if you're doing sci-fi or fantasy, any made up names, places, you need to know how to pronounce those, and having a list of those words with the specifics of how to pronounce it phonetically kind of laid out is very important to a seamless working relationship. So that's something I would be creating if you're working on an audiobook. And then, of course, the back cover copy is something that you would pitch when you're working with a narrator. You got to tell them what it's about. I would actually give them the front cover and the cover copy. And then I wouldn't necessarily send them a PDF right away, but they will eventually ask for a PDF of the book so that they can dig into it. Some narrators will kind of just jump right in. Some will want to read some of the book. It just depends. So know that. And as far as which is better, an individual narrator or a production company, that is up to you, my friend. Individual narrators, a lot of them do brilliant work and they will deliver those finished audio files and charge you per finished hour, and you can work directly with them, and it's fantastic. Just know that typically they are going to be just delivering files and they will be one narrator. If you're looking for a multicast production, so you want a male and female narrator, or you want to be able to read your acknowledgments, and then you want the narrator to do the book parts or different things like that, you will probably want a production team to help you with that, because there's just more involved. If you need advice or information about the audiobook market, which places you should list your book, a production company is more likely to offer those services than a just a single narrator. So those are the things I would say. And also for narrators, it is super helpful. Go on Audible, go sample a bunch of books, go find some, books in your genre, listen to some of the narrators and see if you like any of them. Sometimes you can reach directly out to that narrator and they'll say, yeah, I work on my own and I'm happy to work with you or give you a quote. Some of them will say, I work through XYZ production company and you have to reach out to them. It just depends. But even if that narrator is not available to work with you, having an idea of what sound you like is helpful. I've done that quite a few times where I'll say, we like this narrator, so a voice that kind of has these tones or timbres would be very helpful. So the more information you can offer, it's helpful. I say this with both audiobooks and cover design, actually. It is very helpful that when we're talking about subjective things, that we offer examples, because you may say she's got a high-pitched voice. And what I may think of as high-pitched may be very different than what you think of as high-pitched. So having an example and saying she has a high-pitched voice, like this narrator in this book, then we are on the same level, because I may be thinking high-pitched. You may be thinking high-pitched. And so that's the difference of then if you give me an example and I'm like, okay, this is what you mean. And then we're more likely to get where we want to go much more quickly. Same thing with, like I said, cover design. Don't tell me they had wavy hair, because it could be slightly wavy. You could be thinking curly. You could be thinking beach waves. You could be thinking crimps from the 80s. Don't tell me that. Give me an example of wavy hair like in this photo. That's more helpful, because it gives us an even playing field, and it means that we're speaking on the same level. So the more, not only description you can give, but the examples you can give, knowing that it won't be exactly like that, but kind of giving them a better description, because what you may think of as chestnut colored hair, I might think of as deepest mahogany. I don't know. I think it's just important to give those examples as much as possible. But you have a fantastic start. There are a lot of narrators and production companies out there that you can reach out to. But I do recommend going to Audible and starting with listening to some samples, finding narrators you work, and then Google them. Some of them, like I said, will have websites where they promote their services directly. They may have production companies, but it gives you a place to start from and some information there. So I'd recommend you do that. All right. I think that was all of our emailed questions, and we've got about 10 more minutes. So I wanted to cover just some interesting information in the market that's going on right now. We have talked about before how KDP Virtual Voice, speaking of audiobooks, KDP Virtual Voice is in beta, where they're doing essentially AI voice for audiobooks. And so this new program, which is still in beta, by the way, has released over 40,000 titles on Audible. Now, the virtual voice audiobooks are only on Audible at the moment. They don't go beyond there. It's free for the author to do. They have the choice of different AI voices that they can use. It is read pretty much directly from the manuscript. And they're calling it virtual voice. And those audiobooks on Audible are noted as being virtual voice. So they do have a little note on there. But even in beta, there are over 40,000 titles, which is just incredible to me how many audiobooks are really going into the market just with that one AI virtual voice system. I just think it's very interesting. Now, for the machine generated audios, most of them average overall a 4+ rating. I think part of that rating system on Audible and how they're getting that is that they are listed as being virtual voice. People aren't expecting a human narrator and then getting a virtual voice. I think that the listing and having it labeled, the actual label says that the book was created by computer generated narration for audiobooks. And I think having that kind of caveat there is really important to how those books have been being rated. But it is just staggering to me that in beta, and they did open up that beta, I had a bunch of people get notifications that their accounts were eligible for it. So they are kind of like expanding the beta testing, but 40,000 already is kind of crazy. It's pretty crazy. So that I found interesting. The other thing that I found interesting is that sales reports now. So we've had kind of these trade reports through the Association of American Publishers for a long time. I talk about sales trends and what's going up or down. But more recently, the AAP has started breaking up those sales reports, not only by adult, children, nonfiction, but they're actually breaking it up based on format, which they haven't done necessarily in the past. So I found that to be very interesting. So, for example, adult books are down. They're a 1% decline in the first quarter here in 2024. However, when we look at the numbers, I think it's very interesting that adult fiction grew 3.6%, but nonfiction fell 5.8%. So when we say adult books have declined, it's actually in nonfiction. Fiction has actually continued to grow. And then when we look at the formats, people ask me this all the time. So for adult books specifically, hardcovers were 29% of sales for that quarter. Paperbacks were 35%, which holds true. And then ebooks were about 16% and audiobooks were 15%. So ebooks and audiobooks are neck and neck right now for sales, which I found very interesting for the adult book market. And then for children's sales, and this would include young adult as well. So all children's sales, there was a decline, 9.7% of a decline from 2023. Now, sales for children's books, the fiction fell 10.5% and nonfiction fell 5.8%. So I think it's interesting that in juvenile or children's titles, the nonfiction fell less than the fiction, which is opposite than the adult market. And speaking of, because we did talk about this today with marketing an ebook for young adults, hardcovers in children's made up 37% of books sold, and paperbacks were 43%, much higher than their adult counterparts. And digital and audio ebooks made up 4% each. So that just kind of further suggests that if you have a children or young adult book, that investing in the print book options really is a smart thing to do. So I just found that these were interesting to kind of look at the breakdown a little bit further of book sales, but also what is trending, what is selling, but breaking it up to kind of get an idea of what might be a good investment for you. If you're a fiction author, does it make sense to do audio? If you're a nonfiction author, is now the time for you? If you're not selling as much as you used to, is it you or is it the market? And these numbers give us a little bit more insight to that, which I always appreciate and look at when I'm working on marketing or books or different clients. So I think it's interesting to track. All right, you guys, I think we're at the end of the hour. We will be back next Friday, though. So if you do have questions, you can join us live at newshelves.com/FAF at 10 a.m. Eastern next Friday, or you are welcome to email in questions to info@newshelves.com. I'll save those up and answer those next Friday, and you can watch the replays on YouTube, which is just youtube.com/newshelvesbooks. Go subscribe over there. We appreciate it. And that keeps you all updated. I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you next Friday. Bye, guys.